Okay, so what are the things that's happened? Yes, Emma?
Whoops, yes, ma'am. I have a quick question.
Okay.
So we say deep six, and there's this whole protocol of things that just automatically happen because we are speaking with authority. And we have not acceptable, which is sort of similar, and we have tag and transform. So those are all things. If we say the phrase hitchhiker shield, is that also an automatic boom?
Yeah, I was considering putting it all under guardian's shield, a circle that didn't seem right. So I'm in the process of knowing what they are is important, but I want them all interlinked. You know, not be so they each have their place, they each have their role. They're separate, but they're interlinked, so that when we say, like, for except we say deep six or not acceptable, those would be the two words more than tag and transform. That's more single, but I want all of them to be activated within but you need to know what you are activating. That's what's powerful, I think. So what you are activating and why, but I want it done. So right now, use deep six, use not acceptable, either one of those right now, and more to come next week, I'm sure.
And we can say hitchhiker shield, and that just works?
Yeah, that works too. Yeah, I want that in the whole thing too, but if you want to say that separately.
So this is going to be like dominoes falling up.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And when we say we're speaking with the voice of authority, like, what, is it okay if we're not exactly feeling super authoritative in that moment?
Yeah, in fact,
if we just have the phrase, you
might want to take a moment and breathe and say, I am the presence of authority, and just bring yourself into that mindset.
Okay.
Very long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon,
is the truth. Yes.
One more point of clarification. Are you saying that as soon as these parasites realize that their home has been destroyed, at that moment, they are sent back to source? The knowledge that their home is destroyed is the activator for sending them back to source?
Evidently, what the way it's set up at this moment, because we just did it like 2 hours ago, at the point of awareness, they are gathered into PTO centers and taken back to source, to their source. Yeah.
Oh, how much do I love this?
Yeah. So that's and yeah. So again, fleshing out a lot of more specifics, but that's where we are now. I'm going to show you one other thing here, because critical to where we've been in the last 21 years is the restoration of female authority. So here's the difference. It used to be, this is the crippled phase, and this was the three phases of female. I don't know, it's a man's thing, and it was in, I don't know, some book. The three phases for women are maiden, mother, crone. You've heard that before. It's still being used. Maiden, mother, crone. And my good friend Donna Haynes went, wait a minute, something's missing. I'm getting ready. She was like kidding 50 something, and she didn't feel like a crone. So she went on her own little search, and she wrote the book, Queen of Myself. She said, no, we are maiden, we are mother. In other words, we have responsibilities to others, whether that's a career or a family. Then we become queen of ourself, where we take all that we have gathered, our wisdom, our strengths, our joys, and say, whew, now I will build powerfully. See what happened when we took away the authority right here? It showed up in this crippled phase. This is where authority to speak really kicks in for more than just world. I mean, more than just your family. And we don't even, the power to speak for a family was even ripped away in the patriarchy, where you listen and the man tells you what to do. So maiden, mother, queen of myself, and then crone. So there's so many things that have crippled women, and some we've put in place ourselves as survival techniques. And now we are, we are in this group and in groups, my classes, we are restoring that power of authority, the joy of that, the presence of that. And for me, what has been really necessary during the last couple of months when it was like, what is going on? And is to step into saying, I am a presence of. And then it was today that I went, wait a minute, what's the bigger picture here? And sit down and say, what's the bigger picture here? We are in the process of dismantling these worlds, and I'm going to use numbers for you. We started this about a month ago, maybe a little bit less. We needed to clear our families from these worlds before they could be dismantled. So right now, in world 1, there is still 15% of our family members still there, 10% in world 2. This is as of this morning. 5% in world 3, none left here and none left there. That's how clear we are getting our family members restored. Those babies taken out of the grave, put in new buffalo line caskets and taken back to source. 15% left, 10% left, 5% left, none left, none left. The dismantling has been begun. There's 80% has been dismantled here. 60% has been dismantled there. They're starting to dismantle them at 30%, 15%, 5%. And it occurs to me, those movies that we have watched for a long, long time, talking about the apocalypse and everything falling apart. And I think it's these worlds. This is where I'm seeing it happen, is in these worlds. And what will happen is when our family members are gone and all of those of their members out in our homes are gone, these just won't exist. It will be an empty, it will have to be returned to that energy of Gaia. So there we are. So take the information, kind of be with it. What will it mean to you when you're feeling disruptions around you of any kind? You might want to say, wait a minute, are you of the light? Have you gone to the PTO center? See, because there are those in our world who promised they would put on and let the manifestations of outsiders show through them. I have a friend who, she was really into conspiracy. And she was like a David Icke. And so she and I kind of agreed and didn't agree, because I only go so far with conspiracy. If you're not going to do something to shift it, that's not my role. I'm not going to, but she was, and not out there in the big world, but in her world. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful lady. And yesterday, she was talking, I didn't know this, she was in the hospital. She called it the flu. Hospital called it COVID. I don't think she had a shot. And a friend of hers was talking to her. 2 hours later, he was notified that she'd passed. We are eliminating the contracts of our family members that said, I will be the voice to warn about outsiders. I will let their influence show through my life so that they will be seen. And some of those family members, once that mission's done and we're ending it for them, we're ending it, said, no, you don't have to do that anymore. We'll leave the planet. And some won't. But their lives can change because we're ending that contract. That's another thing we're doing. So let's see what, yeah, Cinda, I see your hand.
Well, first of all, I'm sorry about your friend, how unfortunate and how sad. And I'm curious if in the believing of the conspiracy theories and being bought into that cult-like belief system isn't a feeding ground for the outsiders, isn't a way to open yourself up to this dark, negative, because if she's not doing anything about it, she's just living it, swimming it, breathing it, believing in it, expanding it. And therefore it would, I imagine, consume the individual to the point of either a mental breakdown or a physical breakdown like she had. It would break down your immunity, it would break down everything.
Right. It's like their willingness to do that is the gift for us. But our part of the contract was to say, we will be the ones who call it out, to name it, to eliminate them. So feeding frenzy used to be a feeding frenzy alone. Now we see it and we say, out, not acceptable, take them back. So they no longer, and we now know they're there. We don't have to watch and look for feeding frenzies anymore. We know they're there. Now we can be proactive, bring in the troops and say, search it out, search it out, search it out. Because the PTO team and the SIR team do not have to have it manifested. They can identify frequencies at very subtle levels. We in physical bodysuits have made it like we won't see it until it's in our face and slapping us on the head. That's us. And we're the ones with the authority to say, find them and get them gone. Hey, they're here, get them gone. And it's taken us, we've just had the power taken away. Now it's back. So, but those who we are working with in the unseen do not have to have it big. All we have to do is say now all we have to say now is proactively keep looking. They're here, keep looking until they're gone. And if we see it or sense it, yes, absolutely call them in specifically, but we can just keep saying, keep looking until they're gone. Are they gone yet? No, keep looking.
Yeah. And I don't have to do it now, but I'd at one point love to share the story when I used the Are You of My Light on myself. Mm-hmm. And I was instantly cleared of the energy. That was just crazy. So maybe at the end of this, I don't want to interrupt your flow. So
yeah, it's important, I think, for us to recognize that we also have carried them for lifetimes, and they've been very hidden and very well hidden. And so it behooves us to be willing to. Somebody once said to me, to somebody else about me, or she was just flashing this ugly stuff at me, and I won't be in her presence anymore. And I'm going, and I felt nothing, not even no twiggle. And when I said to the person who made me aware of that, I said, well, it must be hers because I didn't feel it. Got off the phone and my team said, what did you just do? I said, you mean it was in me? They said, yes. And it wasn't an outsider in that case. It was some kind of external protector. But wherever we see it, it's not the person, but there's something we see on them off. If we feel it, or if we don't feel it, proactive. So I'm complete. So so I'm be glad to have you share more, Cinda, about that, because next week will be a little bit past our, you know what I mean? This is the moment. So how was that for you?
Well, I had at our property on the gorge, I had invited a friend of mine that at one point in time was my spiritual mentor to come and visit me at the coves. And her life was so stressed and she was in such a bad place. And so this was my gift to her. So I had invited her over, and and in exchange, she did all the cooking. So she brought all this food, and we had, it was the final day, and everything was amazing. But I could tell by watching her that she wasn't doing any work. She wasn't feeling better. She was still swimming in her chaos, even though she was separated from it. And I was really sad for her. Well, the final morning when we were there, and she was cooking breakfast for us, and she was cooking the exact same thing she had made the day before. I came out of the shower and sat down at the table, and I looked at her, and she was glowing. She was beautiful. And I went, she did it. She did it. She did the work. She released it. She knew that this was the day she was going to return, and she got rid of it. This is amazing. Oh, and I was so grateful. I was so grateful. So we sat down and we ate together, and then cleaned up, and she left, and I stayed behind. And all of a sudden I started to cough and cough and cough and sneeze and sneeze and sneeze. And more air was coming out of me than I could bring in. So now I felt like I was suffocating, and I started, my nose was running, my eyes were running, and I was, and I couldn't breathe. And I was in a panic because I didn't understand what was happening. And I just took Sharon's teachings, and I said, are you of my light? Are you of my light? Are you of my light? And I heard, no. And I screamed, Archangel Michael, help me, help me. And I all of a sudden knew what was happening, and I was guided into the bathroom, and I vomited and vomited and vomited. And then it was over that quickly. And I just went, what the hell was that? And I realized that this woman, who should have known better because of the way she presents herself as a spiritual leader, she had, while she was cooking, releasing all of her toxins, but without these trainings of sending it back from where it came from. It was just polluting, toxifying the food we were about ready to eat, because we ate the same thing the day before. So, and I had no issues with it. And she was a totally different person. She had released it, but she didn't do the final stage of transmute this energy or take it back from where it came from. And because of my sensitivities, I'm assuming, I don't know, I digested that energy and had a reaction to it. And because of this protocol that I learned from Sharon, I was able to clear myself immediately of it. But I'm telling you, the seconds prior, when I couldn't breathe, I couldn't breathe. And I couldn't even, it was so frightening. It didn't last for very long, but just that question, are you of my light? And trusting what you hear and responding in kind. It's immediate. The clearing and the cleansing was immediate. And I'm will forever be in awe of that. So anyway, thank you. I thought I'd share.
Oh my God, Cinda, my heart is racing. Like, last week, I woke up coughing and hacking and like could not breathe. And like, I was so panicked. And this is all like, thank you. Like, I've just been like, why did that happen? And my partner was, panicked next to me while I was gasping for air. And like, I'm having this very strong reaction because I just, think that it had something I need to do some clearing. So thank you for sharing. I'm complete.
And you definitely can call that energy and say to your team, what that energy, anything about that, absolutely. You can act on it now, even though it as if it was the past. Thank you, Cinda. Thank you, Avi. You know, we're moving quickly, but we're moving quickly to good. You know, and sometimes the last couple of weeks, especially last week, it's like I've had to remind myself why I'm here. You know, so when I said, what are we a presence of? You know, the presence of not entrap, not parasitic overthrow. You know, no, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to say I am a presence of the divine agenda. I'm a presence of the joy of life, because that's the truth. And we, with our authority voice, are making it happen. So, okay, loves. Yes, Emma and then Cinda, or vice versa, either way.
Sharon, not to ask for personal information, but we haven't seen Letitia in a while, and just wondering if she is okay and needs energy from us.
Yeah, she has been involved with a friend's wedding and making choices according to what she feels is good for her right now. That's what we all do.
Thank you. Thank you.
I thought that one of the things that I think is just so important in learning about the protocol is when you share stories. And then especially as you come about the information, I think that is incredible, Sharon. But I also think it's helpful to hear stories from other people. And I just can, if it's all right, I have another very short, powerful story about this protocol. And that was, I got really sick. I don't believe it was the Delta variant, but I caught this horrible cold like 2-3 weeks ago, and it was very much settled in my chest, and I was coughing and coughing and coughing, and Avi, this might be helpful. So I was hadn't slept at all during the night. I couldn't breathe because of the congestion. I felt horrible and feverish, and I woke up and I was sitting on the end of my bed, just sort of curled up and cold. And my husband walks in and he goes, "Babe, are you all right?" And I'm like, "I just feel like shit. I feel so lousy." And I was so angry because I knew that I caught it from the hospital when I went in for a colonoscopy. I knew the minute I caught it, I could feel the germs enter me. And I was so mad that the hospital allows that to happen. But anyway, I'm sitting there, my husband leaves to go make me some tea. And in that moment, I realized, wait a minute. I'm sitting here victimizing myself, saying that it's someone else's fault that this bug germ found its way into me. I am my own sovereign being. I have a right to ask it to leave. So instead of being all hunched over and cold and miserable on the end of my bed, I sat up, and with authority, I just said, I am, and again, this is Sharon's protocol, I am my own sovereign being of light and love. And only that which is in alignment with that light and love is allowed to remain. That which is not is required to leave. I am my own sovereign being of light and love, and only that which is in alignment with that light and love is allowed to stay, and that which is not is required to leave. And I repeated it a third time, and I was instantaneously better. I mean, I went from flu-like symptoms to like croup type cough, the pain, the broken rib feeling, the muscles that were so sore from coughing for 4 or 5 days prior, to all of a sudden it was gone. And I had just a little bit left of some sinus drainage that caused my voice to be slightly hoarse, plus all the coughing that I'd been doing. But other than that, I was like this. My husband caught it, and where I was sick for just a week, he was sick for 3. And so I knew that we had the same bug, but because I, at the peak of it, inserted this protocol, it was instant, again, amazing. So yeah, again, this works. This shit works, Sharon.
It does. She who is the master of energy determines the outcome.
Yeah, I love that saying too.
When I brought the presence of release into the circle today, it was essentially because of that, Cinda. It's like realizing how long I hold on to things before. It's almost like, like I wait a little too long to recycle, right? Like just put it in the recycling bin. So but that's kind of like a silly physical thing, but also like, how long am I willing to hold on to, not feeling well, or, emotionally or physically or whatever, before I will actually take the steps to claim my authority and claim my health. Even knowing, deliberately thinking, you could do this now. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I could. And then just not doing it. So this whole thing of like sacred release, I think for me right now is really important because I just got home from getting a COVID test. I'm getting the test to be sure, but also to claiming my health. So thank you for that story, Cinda. That's powerful. And Avi, we're holding you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay. We're changing so many things. My intention, and it may change because it kind of becomes what it does when it's time for our next class. My intention is to really walk us through what I'm calling the evolutionary blueprint for the bodysuit, which includes the evolutionary DNA and chakras. Because there's a huge amount of changes just in the last year, and before that, a year, 2 years, and then before that. So kind of bringing it into a point. Okay, well, love you guys. Thank you for sharing. It really adds, doesn't it? And we'll see where we are next week. And if you need to get a hold of each other, realize on the website, there's the sheet. Okay, unmute. Lots of love.
Thank you, Sharon.
Hearts.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
hugs.
Okay, bye, loves.
Bye-bye.